What's up, everyone? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So today, I wanted to talk about the OKC Thunder and their blatant tank job that they're doing the rest of the year. This is about as obvious of a tank as we've seen in recent seasons, and it's for a couple of different reasons, right? Usually when teams tank, they are kind of trading away players and maybe playing up injuries a little bit and sitting veterans and stuff. The Thunder have done all of the above. They've traded away some of their vets, and the ones that they weren't able to trade, they've just said, hey, we're just not going to play you, and they've had injuries for some of their better players, and so OKC is very, very clearly angling for one of the top picks in the draft because they've been a team who's been shockingly competitive this year, and I think what we're going to see over the next month or so as we finish out the regular season is that the Thunder are really going to try to lose every single night. So kind of wanted to talk about them, what their plans for the future are, and what they're going to look like for the rest of the year. So this was really accelerated by a couple of things. First of all, gilgeous-alexander, who is dealing with plantar fasciitis, I believe, some foot injury that's going to keep him out for some extended time. Doesn't look like it'll be the rest of the season, but probably about a month or so. We'll see how that goes. Who knows, right? But Shai is going to be out for a little bit, and obviously he's their best player. He's been having an all-star type season, and he's one of their young guys that is really going to lead this team into their next era. So with him being out, they said, hey, we're going to pull the plug on the season. They were probably already planning on doing this anyway, but that kind of expedited, this was in the Woj report, it kind of expedited the Al Horford being basically sent home for the rest of the year. I mean, that's not entirely what's happening. He's still going to be around the team and on the bench and stuff, and I guess practicing with them or whatever, but he's not going to be active for games anymore. He will not be playing in games for the rest of the season. And so the trade deadline's passed, so there's not going to be a trade for Al Horford. He's got like 3 years left on his contract still, so it's probably not going to be a buyout unless for whatever reason the situation deteriorates and both sides are really ready to give up on this. But I think they're going to try to find a trade for him in the offseason. Considering that he's actually played okay this year, I think they'll be successful in doing that as that contract gets closer and closer to expiring. It's not as long-term of a commitment, so maybe another team is looking to bring somebody like Horford in, considering he has, after this season, he has 1 year, and then the second year of that deal is non-fully guaranteed. It's only guaranteed for about half the value, so it's not like it's going to be super crazy for somebody to trade for Al Horford. So maybe they'll trade for him, or a buyout will happen in the offseason, or maybe next year's deadline. Who knows how that unfolds, but he's probably going to be off this team pretty soon, right? So he's not going to be playing for the rest of the year, and with Shai being out and him out, Lu Dort recently suffered a concussion. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that that's like a made-up injury or anything. You got to be careful with concussions, but I think they might, be very careful in easing him back, is what I'm going to say. He's missed a couple of games now. He might be out for a little while. Other than that, it's really just development for everybody else on this roster. And there's really not that many veterans left. They offloaded George Hill at the deadline. They traded a ton of vets last offseason, as we know. And looking at the roster, pretty much the only veterans that are here are Mike Muscala and Darius Miller, who doesn't really play. And other than that, everybody's 25 and younger, I'm pretty sure. It's kind of ridiculous just how young they've gone with this roster here. I could potentially see buyouts for Mike Muscala and maybe Miller, even though, Miller, I think if he got bought out, I'm not sure he would get another contract. Muscala, I think, could help a team. He's averaging 10 points this year. And I think if he was bought out, we could see him go to a contender and really be able to help somebody off the bench. I would like to see Muscala get bought out because he could really help someone. Although it seems like he likes OKC, kind of likes being the mentor role. There's a reason that he chose to stay there. I think last off season when he was originally signing with them, they were originally bringing him in as a veteran to play on the team along with Paul George and Russell Westbrook because they were figuring they were going to go into the next season still trying to be good, trying to be competitive, and they were also going to sign Alec Burks. But then the Paul George trade happened. They kind of changed direction, traded him away, traded Russell Westbrook away, and then Muscala and Burks were given the option to not sign with the team. But instead, Muscala chose to stay. Burks decided to back out and went and signed with the Warriors instead. So Muscala, stayed. It seems like he likes it there, so maybe there won't be a buyout, but if there is, I think he could help somebody. That was kind of a rant about, tangent about Mike Muscala, who's not very relevant to this, but actually, he could be a very intriguing buyout guy, at least in my opinion. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. And for what it's worth, Muscala's out with an ankle injury right now. Who knows how severe that is, right? But he's been out for a little while with that ankle, along with Gilgeous-Alexander and Al Horford, Darius Bazley, Lou Dort, and Ty Jerome are all out. So they have some, quite a few injuries they're dealing with right now. And with all that, they're going with full youth, pretty much playing everybody, all these young guys they have on this roster. Like I said, Alexei Pokusevski is a guy who has had some up and down moments this year. I think he's the youngest player in the league this year, actually, and is very, very raw and inexperienced, but he's shown some flashes, so that's a guy potentially. We've seen Moses Brown have a breakout game last week, and he got a full contract. They just traded for Tony Bradley from the Sixers. They've got, let's look at this roster here. Justin Jackson is a guy, he's not super young anymore, but he's maybe a guy who you could watch. Bazley, who's hurt right now, Teo Maledon, rookie, who's been playing pretty well. Isaiah Roby had sort of a resurgence to his career since arriving with OKC. Kenrich Williams, who has been known as a hustle guy with them and has also had a really good season. So they've got some pieces here. We'll have to see how this shakes out. But this young core, it's looking pretty solid. They don't really have the superstar. Maybe Shea gets there eventually, becomes that superstar, piece for them. Who knows exactly what his ceiling is? He might be more fitted as a second or third option on a really good team, but he's certainly going to be a very good player. I see all-star games in his future, so their young core is looking good. And then we have the draft picks. We've seen all the memes about Sam Presti acquiring every available draft pick, and he's basically done that. They have like 18 first-round picks over the next 6 or 7 years, however many it is. It's a lot. They have a lot of first-round draft picks that they're going to be able to use. Now, they're not going to use all of these picks, and that's kind of I'm not going to say it's a dilemma because it's a good problem to have, but the situation they find themselves in, right, where, you have all those first-round picks and you don't even have enough spots on your roster for all those first-round picks. Like, say you were building a roster entirely out of all those picks, you only got 15 spots on your roster, you got 18 picks, so you're not going to use all those, plus you want to obviously hold over a couple of guys from this current team, specifically Dort, Gilgeous-Alexander, the squad, right? So, they'll have to trade some of these somewhere. Potentially that's to move up and select somebody a little bit higher, or trading for another younger player, using 2 or 3 of these picks to maybe cash in on somebody who they feel like has a little more potential. Who knows, right? Sam Presti's got a lot of options, and I'm sure he's got some tricks up his sleeve on things he's going to try to do in order to really maximize this team. But they have a ton of picks, and they're going to be drafting at near the top of the lottery, hopefully for them, right, this season, considering the tank that they're going to be doing the rest of the year. They're trying to angle themselves to have their own pick land in the top 3 or 4. So we'll have to see if that works out for them. Obviously the lottery is just random, so we'll have no idea until that happens, but they're trying to get a top, at worst, top 6 or 7 draft pick, and it's a pretty good draft class, so they're going to add somebody to this core. They also have, I think they have the Rockets pick this year, which is like top 4 protected or something. They have a lot of picks, basically. I'm not even going to go into all the picks they have a ton. So they're going to be able to use that, potentially, like I said, to move up or just stay where they are, select somebody, and we're going to see, them continuing to have the youngest roster in the league, basically. But I've talked about it before on this channel. This is a rebuild like we have never seen before. We've never seen someone commit this hard to just basically building from the ground up with draft picks. They traded, like this, he's literally playing 2K. Like, this is how people play 2K when they do rebuilds. This is what I do whenever I play that game. It's like, if you're basically just trading all the veterans away and getting as many picks as you possibly can, and then using that to either trade for a star or, rebuild through the draft. And we haven't seen a team commit this fully to doing this. Like, I don't think ever we've seen this, where basically last off season, and even the year before it started, with the Russell Westbrook and trades and stuff, and Paul George getting all those picks back from the Clippers. And then, the following year, the Chris Paul deal, the Steven Adams deal, Dennis Schroeder getting traded. Like, they just basically sent away all the veterans and got as many picks as possible. And this is what they're left with, a roster of Al Horford and a bunch of, first, second, third year players. And they're just going to go even further into this for the rest of this season and probably the next 2 or 3. And we'll see how they come out on the other side. It'll be very interesting to watch because, like I said, this is pretty much unprecedented. So, OKC finds himself in a very unique situation. And honestly, it's a fun place to be as a fan. I know the basketball on the floor is not going to be super competitive, but I mean, it is interesting to see what they do with all these moves. have a GM who's willing to be aggressive in going out and you know, committing to a rebuilding strategy and doing it. So I like what Sam Presti's doing here. I think OKC has a real chance to be a really good team again in a couple of years. You know, who knows? They have to find that superstar, right? You know, you can't really win a title without a superstar. Gilgeous-Alexander probably isn't that guy. But if they can land, you know, a top 3 pick in this draft, they could potentially find that guy in this year's draft. So that puts OKC in a pretty good spot. And yeah, that's about all I have on the Oklahoma City Thunder and their full tank job for the rest of the season. Like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell if you want to, leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about this. You know, what do you think about OKC's moves here, you know, from the deadline last week, the George Hill trade? Would love to hear all your thoughts down below. But yeah, with all that said, see you guys in the next one.